Thank you everyone for coming today. I also thank you NUS, AIDF, and the US Enterprise to give me the chance to share the understanding blockchain fundamentals and beyond. I'm KO-WEI. I just finished my PhD in the US in quantum physics, but I have already in crypto since 2017. And I know IELTS has also since 2017, so after knowing this project for 4 or 5 years, I just decided I need to work full-time for this project. And I'll also explain about IELTS at the end of the talk, but I will give you a understanding about the fundamentals first. Okay, so let's start the background. So when we go to industry, we first need to ask about scale. So we just ask you 2 questions when you sign up. So the first is whether you use exchange and whether you own a crypto wallets. So nowadays there are about 100 million exchange registered users. So reported by Binance is about 125 millions. By Coinbase it's about 100 millions. And now the third largest one is OKX after FTX collapsed. I hope you never use FTX. And yeah, and so there's about 1.5% population. So maybe you ever see about this crossing the chain like a bell curve. So people may think crypto is now at the age of mass adoption or something, but not the case. We are still very, very early. We are just here. The innovator to early adopter. We are not yet even reached the early adopter region. And for exchange user, they have their crypto asset in the exchange, means they treat this stuff like financial asset. If you don't really own the key, if you don't really own a wallet, then you basically it's a speculation asset. It's not really used technology. But crypto is more than just a financial speculation. It's also information technology. So how many people really use crypto in their daily life or use their wallet every month? So according to Mason, I will just discuss later. Now we probably have about 10 million monthly active users on blockchain. So you can see that's tiny compared to our global population. So we are still very, very early. You may hear about this thing there are always some 100x meme coin crazy pump or some Dogecoin Shiba, all the crazy talk. But very few people still use this in their daily life. But that's all about the global scale. So what's different in Singapore? Very interestingly, Singapore get about 15% population, 14 to 15, use crypto. I refer that to crypto exchange user in 2022. So somehow Singapore do have very high crypto penetration rate, even though Singapore is a rich country. Because most of the crypto country have high penetration rate are Vietnam or Philippines. They do the play to earn GameFi stuff, or they do international remittance. But Singapore is kind of one of a kind. Singapore is the 15% people use crypto exchange is about here. So now it's more or less will go to the from the early adopter to early majority. So let's just give you a broad idea about what we have today. So we are still early. And that's the statistics I just say according to names. One of the famous and well-recognized statistic website in crypto. We have about monthly active users for all different protocols. You can see, even for the protocols, not the application, we have thousands of different protocols. Like BNB chain, Solana, Ethereum, Polygon. They all get a few million people, a few million active address per month. But the real live people are definitely less than this number. I can say I personally have a few Solana address and also have a few Ethereum address. So if we optimistic estimate, probably we have 10 million users, but in reality, probably just have a few million global. So we are still very early. Do you have any question to this kind of first part? Because I welcome you just to interrupt me if you have any question to my slides or my statistic or whatnot. Because I love the more interaction involved. But anyway, if no question, then probably I'll go to the second part. Or if you think I talk too fast, you can also just ask me to slow down. Okay, so yeah, great.
What's a chain?
So what do you mean? Sorry.
What's a chain?
Okay, all these are different blockchains. So you can see there's a BNB chain, there's a Solana chain, there's a Ethereum chain. They are all different chains. So you can say for here we just name the major chain. Yeah. And for each chain, we can call it a protocol. They are all different applications on top of the chain. So that's the thing I will discuss next. Just like why we should focus on protocols or application. So basically, all these protocols, all these chains, they have all different like their user base. And we see very few people really use this nowadays. We are still very early. Okay, and then we just go to protocol applications. So we see we only have a few million people like monthly active user, and we have so many chains. Then we should build a better chain, or we should just build a better application on top of the chain. It's also it's a good question because maybe we just need to have a better application so we can just get the chain's potential get utilized. You may think about this because like in the web tool, we see the Fed application. So Linux Foundation or Python Foundation or like TCP/IP, all these protocols, they earn very little or they rely on donation in the web tool or the traditional web world. We can see there's a very thin protocol about the value accrual and very fat application there. That's because like in the web tool world, we don't really own our data or the connection for data. Maybe you can say we can download our profile from Facebook, download our profile from Twitter, but we cannot download all the connection and we cannot pour all the connection from place A to place B. So that's a very high entry barrier, and combine the high entry barrier and also the network effect, the application can accrue most of value in the web tool world. And I think maybe very few people can really contribute or donate to the protocol layer, but we kind of like, we are the product for the web tool thing. We just get our privacy leak or just watch ads. So that's how in the web tool world they have the fat applications. But in the Web3 world, there's a fat protocol thesis. I personally recommend everyone to read the fat protocol thesis from the Union Square Venture. They wrote this fat protocol thesis back in 2016. This is probably the second most important crypto paper to read. The first most important definitely is the Bitcoin 5 paper, but fat protocol thesis is the framework everyone should know. So why in the crypto world the protocol is very fat and application is relatively thin? It's because like when you use the crypto wallet to interact with all the application, you really own your asset, you really own your data. So if one application wants to do some funny thing like raise the interest rate or like change something, it's very for you to to migrate from A to B. It's very hard for you to move. So given you really own your stuff and you can really like move from place A to place B, the entry barrier is much smaller. And another thing for the Web3 world, the blockchain world is like everything are more or less open source and like all API are all like free to use. So if you do some like you have very like amazing great idea, people can fork it or just try to sneakily integrate so you will not violate your copyright or something. Since everything are open source, it's very hard for application to create entry barrier. It's not possible, but it's much harder. And another thing is like you may ask, okay, we know the application layer they can have their token. It's more like security. So you may have something decentralized exchange or decentralized leverage or decentralized insurance. They may have their token, and this token can get people formal. But why most of the value still goes through the protocol? It's because like even though in the short run application they may have like their rise and fall. Most if people really use this protocol because one of the application on top, you will still drive the demand for the underlying protocol because people might just hold the token to pay the fee or do other things. So even though one of the application may really like drive the adoption, but the protocol will still benefit more than the single application. So basically, just like we own our data, we can move A to B. Now there's it's open source, so it's open source, so it's smaller entry barrier for application to build, and the open source nature also get your competitor easier to code pass what you do. Okay, but even though most value accrual will happen to protocol layer, doesn't mean application layer is boring or is very like flat and nothing happen there. On the contrary, not the case. There are tons of things can happen in the application layer. The reason is the composability. So if I have one application, so it's also called the money Legos. So if I build one application on top of Ethereum, other people have no need to ask my permission to build something on top of me. So it's permissionless and it's open source. And you can see, like, for example, if I have some Ethereum, I can deposit it into Maker to create some digital dollar called DAI. And I can deposit the DAI into Compound to earn some interest. All these things just like permissionless. And for the Compound, if you can just think as like the lending borrowing protocol is like a bank. So if I deposit money in, I can get some interest. I can there's a protocol called pool together. Everyone can deposit one DAI into the Compound and to get one pool together token. The pool together token is like a lottery. Everyone will just every week they will give the interest from the Compound to one of the pool together token holder. But everyone else will hold the principal. So this is a way for people to incentivize deposit, or you can say saving, because this is something already been done in the US and the UK. But it's very hard for us to do this in like PayPal or DBS, because if I say I want to open a bank account, everyone deposit in, and one of the people who are lucky enough will win the interest for the whole week, and all other people will just get their principal preserved. It's very hard nowadays. It's not just the technology, but also like it's not open source. You cannot just plug and play the API. So in the crypto application, even though compared to the protocol, the application accrue less value, but it's still tons of possibility over here. So it's not like, it's also the reason why in the crypto world, one of the application will not be like crazy large like Web2, because if you can do one job very well, people will just build on top of you. So we don't need to have one broker do all the financial service. You can just do one Lego and another people do another Lego, and someone just combine each other. So that's called composability, and a more vivid way to call it is called money Legos. Definitely the Legos can build something more than money stuff. You can have always NFT Legos, but since decentralized finance is the first thing to come out, I just call it, I just use money Lego here. In principle, the Lego is for all different decentralized apps. Okay, so basically that's the first part. So that's just about the FAT application in the Web2 and some fundamental difference in the crypto world. In the Web3 world, we have FAT protocols, not FAT application anymore. But even though we have the FAT protocols, doesn't mean the application is boring, because people can build all different applications on top of each other permissionlessly and transparently. Okay, so yeah, thank you.
So I wanted to ask, so do FAT protocols mean that there are a lot?
Sorry, can you have a microphone, or can someone pass the microphone?
So I just wanted to clarify whether FAT protocols actually means that like compared to Web2, there are more protocols like that are being used. I'm not very clear on this.
Okay, I will not say it's more. It will be okay. In some sense, it's more protocol, because when you raise fund or try to make innovation, you know protocol will easier to raise fund and you accrue most of value. So this is not financial advice, but it's like when people also do invest, no matter as a retail user or as a VC, they may think like protocol is just a very good way for you to invest rather than this individual application. And when you say whether there will be more protocol, I will say also the answer is probably yes, because since most value will be accrued by protocol, and people just try to create more protocols.
I see. And just to follow up, so would the different blockchains be considered based on like different protocols, or?
I would for here we just call the each blockchain is a protocol.
Okay.
There's a base layer. Yeah.
I see.
So if you are a protocol, means like you don't do any specific application. So if you have specific application like decentralized lending, borrowing, or exchange, or leverage, or insurance, your application. So it's more like security. You can calculate the PE ratio or whatnot. So I know that definitely will be chased by SEC. But if you are a public blockchain, a layer ones, you are just really more like currency than like security. Then you are here. You are the protocol layer. But definitely we will go more deeper about the blockchain layer. But for now, we just say blockchain is protocol and application built on top of this application layer.
Okay, yeah, that clears it up. Thank you.
the microphone.
Hi. I would like to ask, what is their motivation of this applicant? Because all are open source, and every applicant can use other application. So what is their motivation?
Okay, that's a very good question. So there are a few reasons why you instead use okay. The first thing is about Lindy effect. Okay, I see there's a protocol A. They do very well for past 4 or 5 years or 3 years with 10 billion, with like $1 billion inside. And if someone do a fine tune to a new protocol and get some like fee lower or much better, a much better like feature, but it's not yet battle test with money and time. So maybe I'm not there too. Maybe in the long run they're indeed better, but in the short run maybe people still prefer to use the all but go stuff. That's the first thing. The second thing is also about the token. So it's not just about the application itself. A lot of applications, their token do play some role inside. So like maybe this application itself is like very good, and if you hold their token, you can get some fee discount or something. So it's not just the application compete with application. It's application and also the token, also the community compete with another application token and community. So I think you asked a very good question. If all the protocol are just open source, can we copy and paste and finally just get a better like iteration? Most of the time it will not work. Yeah. Because if you just like copy paste and okay. So since you asked this question, I can just say something really happened in 2020. So at the moment there's the largest decentralized exchange called Uniswap. People just trade A to B, B to A token on top of Uniswap. They have no token at least at that moment. And there's someone called Chief Nomi forked the whole Uniswap and so okay, I call it Sushi Swap and I have token. And anyone use Sushi Swap will get some Sushi token. And in a very short time, 60% of Uniswap liquidity moved from Uni to Sushi. But at the end, Uniswap still win. They just iterate they do issue their own token, follow Sushi, and they also iterate their protocol. So if you just stand still doing nothing, the competition will be like very strong and the entry barrier is lower. But since the innovation light speed and go crazy, go exponential, it's very hard for a latecomer to just say I want to compete with the best lending protocol, the best decentralized exchange. They are also moving, and you can even moving faster than the newcomer.
Okay, thank you. I see.
Okay, so more, I just done with the backgrounds and also the fabric. This is the times to some like fundamental question, what's blockchain? We have not really go through what's inside the blockchain, what's the block, what's the chain. Okay, so the first part, what's blockchain? So it's basically a ledger, we can see in the database, it's an immutable ledger, that's with a total order block. We have a block after another block after another block. So you can just see by the graph, blockchain is a linearized data structure. It's the most linearized, so it's the most secure, but it's not the only possible way you can create a decentralized ledger. You can definitely, someone use Tango, like spoiler, I also use Tango, or you can use even loose data structure. For blockchain, it's the most it's the most linear. You do have a linear order, so it's the most secure one. It's easier to have like a consensus mechanism, or easy to get the security with blockchain. For the looser one, it's definitely harder, but if you can do that, you have more potential. So that's part one, what's blockchain? A immutable ledger with a total order of blocks. So part two, what's inside the block? So we can call blockchain is a triple entry counting public ledger. So if every time we ever just write out how we spend, that day from the beginning of history, that's the single entry accounting, everyone do this stuff every day. And then we have a double entry accounting, the sender receiver, which was invented by Italians in the 14th to 15th century, which contributed more in the accounting system. Then we call blockchain is the triple entry accounting public ledger. So we have the sender, we have a receiver, and we have a global hash to verify. So here is an example. This is the global hash over here, and then we say blockchain is a block with total order. So you can see there's a block height, there's a total number, it's like the tick-tock of the clock. There's a absolute term and absolute order for the block. And then there's a from receiver, you can see this is from KO-WEI, so it's from me. And there's a receiver, which is the Ukraine crypto donation. So this is basically what happened inside the block. So inside the block, there are all different transactions. The transaction will contain sender, receiver, transaction hash. So that's the second part of what's blockchain. So we take a bird view, it look like block. We take it like we use Microsoft to see. We see a lot of transaction. Okay, and then the third part is like, how can we? Blockchain are not just one computer. It's not just one computer has like this linear structure. It's not one computer contain all these transactions. It's the consensus among nodes. So you may heard about like Satoshi Nakamoto do trade Bitcoin. So we named this proof of work called Nakamoto consensus. The longest chain will win. So when we, for example, when we go from the first block to second block, and then if there are more than one nodes, one computer create next block, how it happen? We wait for a moment and see which version will be longer, and we call it out the real version or the real universe, and we just forget what happened like for this branch. And this thing can happen for all the different, all at any time. So you can see we have all different branch, but we always check the longest one is the real one. So you can just say, it's a very brutal force, but it's a scalable consensus. So before Nakamoto, before Bitcoin, there are definitely ways for decentralized computing to reach consensus, but that one is not scalable. I'll also mention this in later, but for now, most blockchain, they just use Nakamoto consensus. Okay. So and then we know what's blockchain. There's a block, and there's and then there's transaction, and there are nodes need to reach consensus. So when we know the fundamental of blockchain, there is a trilemma which might be just can be tell. So first, we know blockchain need total orders. We need to have a block after another block. Maybe inside a block you can have parallel transaction, but between block A and block A prime, you always need a total order. And then we need to have a decentralized nodes. Oh, sorry, we need to have a decentralized node to reach consensus. And then at each point of time, we need to have a leader with a limit throughput, limit transaction per second to create a block. So if we have a security consensus like Nakamoto consensus, and then we want our network to have tons of computers, so we need to very decentralized. Then the problem is that it will not be scalable, because if we want to have a lot of computers can run this software, the computer will be like entry-level hardware like laptop or something. So it will be so if we want to have the security, then there will be a trade-off between decentralization and scalability. It's not a simple trade-off. We can sacrifice one point of decentralization and get 10 points in the scalability. That's possible. It's not a simple trade-off, but it's a trade-off. So I will go through all different blockchain protocol, how they decide to. There are three potential solutions for the trilemma. So we can sacrifice one of the feature in this trilemma. So first we go to the Ethereum, the most famous one, the mainstream one. We want our chain to, we want our protocol to be secure and decentralized. So for Ethereum and for Bitcoin, they have thousands or thousands of nodes to secure their network. And they have a shared security, means they run the Nakamoto consensus, so all the nodes are weighted to be the leader and they are verified transaction. So how do they solve this problem? Because no one wants to pay a few dollars to do a transaction or do anything. It's just too expensive. Even for payment, it's just too much. So even the founder of Ethereum, Vitalik, say the payment on blockchain or on Ethereum should never be more than 0.1 cent. The fee should not be too high. But if nowadays you ever use Ethereum, the Ethereum mainnet is a few dollars, and during the peak time can be $10 for to do payment. So how do Ethereum? So Ethereum is based on security and decentralization. How do they solve a problem? Well, they say we can have a layer 2. Means our base layer, Ethereum, can be very decentralized and security, with security. But our layer 2 can be very centralized, but very high throughput. And we just need to get our layer to commit to layer 1, then problem solved. Then how can this commute work? There are 2 ways. One way is called optimistic rollup, means like the layer 2 very centralized server will dump their data to Ethereum and assume everything well. If someone wants to challenge and get a dispute to what happened in 7 days and it work, the layer 2 will get slashed and the illegal transaction will get reversed. So that's called optimistic. So we have a very decentralized layer 2. We have very decentralized layer 1 as a court to way people to submit their they want to sue something or they want to dispute something, and we assume everything goes well. So the layer 2 keep produce tons of transactions, and we just wait for people to dispute. If nothing happened, right? So that's how Ethereum gets scaled up. Like that's their way to go through scaling. And then there is some crazy black magic thing called the zero-knowledge rollup. It basically means like when you go through some mathematical trick, you can prove like the layer 2 are very centralized, and it can even be an evil actor. If they publish this proof to layer 1, they cannot go wrong. Just like if you follow some of the rules and you try to go through some calculation, even though no one can recalculate, but we can just verify your calculation with exponential small of computation. So basically, there are 2 ways to do this rollup. I will not go to the detail too much, but there are already all different kind of optimistic rollup and zk rollup here. So what kind of application we can build on top of this kind of Ethereum-based stuff? So if you want to build something with money involved, especially if you want to do some serious amount of money involved, you probably will try Ethereum, because even though it might be slow, it might be expensive, but it's very security and decentralized. So most of the total value lock or DeFi nowadays maybe still 2/3 or even 75% of value are all on Ethereum. But you can see the drawback easily, just like it's too expensive for the consumer app stuff. No one wants to pay such amount of fee. So in the long run, Ethereum definitely want to say we keep our layer 1 very secure, decentralized, and we just wait for layer 2 to come. That's our solution that's their solution to the trilemma. Okay, there are definitely other peoples. So there comes to the Cosmos. So even though we know there's a fat protocol thesis, there's protocol application. No one say like each protocol can have just one application. So protocol and application can just be all customized. So for Cosmos, they are decentralized and scalability. Each application has their own blockchain, but they have no shared security, so that's a problem. So they're not very decentralized. Each Cosmos chain maybe have only 200 to 300 validator nodes or nodes, so it's not very secure. But they have an inter-blockchain communication, so they believe that the future of blockchain will be like all different blockchain have all their specific app, so you can call it app chain thesis. I can give an example. Like there is a Cosmos chain over here called secret. So since it's a secret network, it's a privacy. So this chain provide a privacy function application, and there is something called like this one. Actually, it's a bridge. You can bridge the asset from our ecosystem to Cosmos. And then there is something called like the trade. There's Omesis in this chain is specialized for you to trade. And there's something for publication. There's a Litecoin. Litecoin is if you publish over there, you can get some Litecoin if people press like on your article in All Press or Medium or something. So Cosmos just say, okay, we want people to use each app on each chain. Even though we have no shared security, it's fine. We just want to get decentralization and scalability, and all different applications they can have their customized design. So that's how Cosmos think shared security can be sacrificed. Okay, and then that's definitely servicing. So the high-speed chain, they just like, for example, Solana, they think like we don't want to have like a different app for different chain. We also don't want to have layer 1, layer 2 stuff. We just want to be a monolithic blockchain. We have the fastest clock. So in some sense, Solana or the Sui Optus, this high-speed chain, they have scalability and security, but they definitely sacrifice some for decentralization, which will be some problem I will mention later. But given this design or some innovation trade-off, they have very low latency and very low fee. So the block time for Solana is 0.4 seconds. So give an example, Bitcoin, the block time is about 10 minutes, Ethereum get about 15 seconds, and BNB chain maybe get 3 seconds, Polygon probably get like a few seconds, but Solana can get 0.4 seconds. So it's a very, very fast blockchain. And it's very cheap. The transaction fee is maybe 0.001 cents. So you can do some consumer application beyond what you can do with Ethereum or Cosmos. It sounds very nice. You can mint like 1 million NFT in one transaction, or you can even do a messenger or do some messaging app built on top of Solana. It all sounds very nice, but there is definitely some cost you need to pay when you sacrifice decentralization. So why we want decentralization? We don't want decentralization for the sake of decentralization. We want decentralization is because we want it to be not fall into the single point failure, and we don't want to have like compliance issue, just the regulation issue. So the problem is that if you are not decentralized enough, your network might just halt if something goes wrong. So for the past 2 years, from 2021 to 2023, Solana will hold about 7 times or 9 times. So each time we hold for a few hours to at least less than 1 day. So if you want to have serious money on Solana, you may consider twice, because you don't want your position to get liquidated, or you want to transfer money and money stuck to somewhere. So definitely Solana Foundation try hard to solve this issue, but there is some architecture design trade-off over here. So you get very fast, very cheap, share security, but sometimes you hold. So that's basically the different. That's the 3 trade-off from the blockchain trilemma for 3 different approach. Yeah. They also use different like programming language, but since this is not a developer bootcamp, I just like skip that part. So if you have any question related to the blockchain trilemma or the blockchain fundamentals, please ask here. Or okay, I'll also have a question at the end of the talk. Okay.
Hi, I have a question on the Solana, right? Why is there a need for a central instance, where, Solana itself, they have to stop the transactions? Can't it be like like a private blockchain, and different organizations, they sort of run their own instance?
Sorry, you say it's whether blockchain will stop, or why people use why Solana stop, or why people want to use Solana?
Yeah, you mentioned that Solana had to stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not they want to stop. It's like if some of programming go wrong, it's very easy for them to get DDoS. Just like we know blockchain need to have leaders to create block, and in Solana the leader is predetermined. Like you can see which node will be the leader, like in a few seconds. In the future few seconds or future few minutes, there's Apple time. So it sounds like a good way for you to, you can get higher bandwidth, because if I know 2 seconds later I need to transmit data to you, then I can prepare and do so. So the latency will be smaller, and also the transaction percent will be higher. The problem is that I can also DDoS you, because I know you will be responsible for the transaction in 2 seconds. So if I want to do some very high value thing, I probably just send out 1 million transactions to you, and you just go offline. And then I know who will be the second node to process, to be the leader node to process. I also DDoS the next one. So it happened, I think in 2021, September, there's a very high value NFT meme. People just flourished the Solana network with like 500K transaction per second, and all the leader nodes down one by one, and then the network is whole. So basically, it get DDoS attack. There's some design feature lead to this result. Definitely, this thing can be fixed, but it do happen a few times.
So it's more a matter of critical bugs and security issues that cause it to stop.
So you can also say, well, yeah, this is like this trade-off in the this is less decentralized in the communication channel, because you know in advance who will be the the leader node in the future in this app. So I will call this still fall into the category of decentralization trade-off. Because in Bitcoin or Ethereum, you don't know which node will be the next node, so you just increase your fee. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, Solana do have this change. They do say, okay, now if you want to send tons of transaction, so before this kind of like outage.
Sorry, can you tell us the question?
Okay, the question is like, how Solana try to solve this problem? Okay, I also have a role. It's like I also co-found the Solana Mandarin community. So, and I also have some role in Solana Foundation. So I also can help. I also can be like more neutral to say they try to solve this problem. So when this DDoS attack happened 2-3 times, they just say, okay, when you try to send transaction to the specific specific action, now you can have priority fee. So before this DDoS happened, you have no way to pay higher fee in Solana. All the transactions pay the same fee. So the only way I can get a transaction through is just to send more transaction. But now I can just pay higher fee, so I just go through. Another thing is like, now the Solana nodes will read your IP. So if I try to send out a lot of transactions to the leader node with this IP, I just get banned immediately. So this thing solved this DDoS attack, but other thing happened. So Solana do go outage more than these first 2-3 times, but they do try very hard to solve this issue. So even like this, okay, these all different protocols, they are now like tried. Even though there are some trouble with the inside crypto space, but we are still very early, from the beginning of this talk. So they do appreciate like the design from each other's. Like you are more decentralized, that's good for you. You do want to face more people to build a consumer app, that's also good for you. So you may heard like Solana had very strong connection to FTX and they suffered loss last year. But the founder of Ethereum, Vitalik, also say Solana do have builder, they may have a bright future. So I say like all these different layer one, they have their potential solution to trilemma. It's not say I think one is better than another. Some application they do move from Ethereum to Cosmos because they can have their customized chain. So I just say there are 3 approaches for you to choose. But you just need to know what kind of application or what kind of like risks you can take to all this stuff. If I just want to do some publication related stuff on Litecoin chain, then it's fine. I don't want to pay high fee, and I don't need like a composability. And for Solana, I can do crazy amount of sync composability, which is not doable other place. So there's all different like trade-off here. It doesn't mean one's better than another, and they all try very hard to build a better technology.
What about the substrate in the Polkadot system? How does it fit in the trilemma?
Okay, so the Polkadot system is also it's in some sense the Ethereum layer 2 because they do have a shared security. So when we talk about multi-chain or you can have your customized chain, the first thing you will think about is Polkadot and Cosmos. But Cosmos don't need a shared security and Polkadot do need a shared security. So you can say it's more close to the layer 2 for scaling sync, but the difference is like in Ethereum, all your layer 2 more or less still need to be EVM and follow the same programming language whatnot. But in Polkadot, all your different like parachain, you can have all different customized design. So I would still say still follow to more security and decentralization. But definitely, I omit a lot of different layer 1. Like I even don't have a slide for Bitcoin here. You may think that's crazy, but Bitcoin have not so many technology innovation here. So I just say anyway. Okay, so what's the transaction fee means? Okay, so in the crypto world, there are 2 roles in all the blockchain, the user and the validator. So if user want to do something, you can incentivize the block producer to pack your transaction into block and like append to blockchain. So it's always you need to pay the fee. And for different blockchain, they have different fee mechanism. I just say in the beginning of Solana, they have flat fee. No matter what kind of transaction you want to do, you always pay the same fee. And for Ethereum, their fees like a market rate. So if now we have more transaction, then the transaction fee should go higher. So basically, it's always a fee because you want to incentivize the block producer to wrap your transaction into the block. Yeah. And the fee can be high, can be low, but you just need to tell. You just need to like. So for here, the highest fee definitely is Ethereum. The lowest fee is probably Solana, and the fee for BNB chain and Polygon is probably a few cents, and Arbitrum and Optimism maybe $1, and Ethereum can be a few dollars, $10. So the fee range can go from pretty low to some crazy number you think that's enough for you to do anything. Okay, so I guess it's just like we more or less know there's what's blockchain and there's a blockchain trilemma. So all different projects, they try to have their core value, they have their thesis to try to overcome the blockchain trilemma. But definitely there are some projects that say, why would we just don't use blockchain and we just don't need to solve this blockchain trilemma? It sounds like, well, it sounds like an interesting approach, but it's definitely a hard approach. So that's where the IOTA comes in. So for IOTA Tango, we try to get our data structure can both be scalable, secure, decentralized at the same time. We try to do something that's more than blockchain, so we use Tango. So as you can see, the Tango is not like a linear data structure, it's more like a net, a dialogic graph. Okay, so why use the Tango? What's the difference for IOTA than other blockchain? So use the storytelling. It's like IOTA Tango is a blockchain without blocks, without chain, without miner, and without fee. So what's that? What's that here, right? You blockchain without block and chain, and there's no miner, there's no fee. What's that? What's there? So we only have transaction and we only have the user. So in the blockchain, we go back to fundamental. So blockchain, there is always a limit transaction because if the user uses transaction, you always need to wait for the validator to pack the thing into the block. So there is a bottleneck by design. There's a bipartisan role. There is a user, and there is validator. So that's a problem. The validator will never accept like zero fee because well, you need to incentivize them to do something. And every time you only have one validator because we cannot just say okay, can we have two validators at the same time? No. Each time you only have one block producer, or like no matter that's proof of work or proof of stake, there is always some bottleneck here. Okay. So in the Tango, we have no blocks. All the users are also validators. So when you try to issue a new transaction, you also validate some the old transaction. So it's in some like storytelling, it's like you can say blockchain is like when I try to issue assignment, I'm the teacher, I need to check all the students' homework. And for the Tango, I ask the student to check each other. So there's no bottleneck. Like if you say each teacher can like deal with like 10 homework like per day or 20 per day or something. But if like there are more students, they can check each other faster, then the bottleneck is solved. So you can say when more people try to use Tango, the Tango just get wider. You can say this Tango can just be wider. Like if more people try to use the blockchain, the only way is that you just get a conjunction, so you need to increase the fee. And given like IOTA Tango, we have no bipartisan no conflict of interest between the user and validator. Since all the users are validator, we are feeless. Just like zero fee. It's not like low. Just like zero. You can tell difference.
Maybe you use this one. Yeah, I have one here.
That's one. There's back along. So we don't know the difference between like paying 1 cent for some service and that's free and you will need to watch some ads for 5 seconds. So free, there's some magic about free stuff. Okay. So that's the part of the reason why IOTA want to get our ledger just like feeless. So a good side product by solving the blockchain trilemma is we also have a feeless base layer. So can I have a more concise like expression of what IOTA do? Yes. So the way we go beyond blockchain is like we think blockchain trilemma is a special case for DLT quadrilemma. So decentralization technology, maybe there's a quadrilemma. Means like the security, decentralization, scalability cannot compatible with the total order of ledger. Just to say clearly, IOTA do get our network have consensus about the state, but we have no consensus about the order. So you can say whether this transaction happened to this is undecided because there is no absolute term, there is no absolute order to this transaction. So in IOTA, we kind of sacrifice the order of ledger to get all the blockchain trilemma and also the feeless nature. But what do we really sacrifice? It's like we sacrifice our ability to run smart contract in layer one. Because smart contract means like for a computer, I didn't know what's the current state now, and then I run some computation, and I'm now in t plus one. So from t, I know what's the program now, and then do something, and then t plus one. So I cannot natively run smart contract in layer one, but we have the feeless nature to do all the token information, NFT, whatnot in our layer one feeless. But it doesn't mean we don't want to have our smart contract. So IOTA is the mainnet, and we have our beta network called Shimmer. We will test all our new technology in Shimmer. So like one audience is like Polkadot. So Polkadot is the mainnet, and Kusama is the beta network. So this is a well-known way crypto is like. If we want to do something, a major upgrade, we'll always test on our beta network first. So IOTA don't support smart contract for now, but Shimmer will support smart contract very soon, probably next month in layer 2. So IOTA will also have our smart contract probably next year. So here's our architecture and all infrastructure we have. So IOTA believe like the layer 1 need to be feeless for everyone to use, because we believe like if the crypto need to go mass adoption, it need to be feeless. IOTA also get our name from the IoT. We believe like IoT, the Internet of Things, will be crucial in the future. So we want our ledger can both run the token, the value, and also the bits, the information like the ID or credential. So our Tango layer 1s will be a UTXO, and just like you can be feeless, decentralized, scale, and also secure. And if you want to do something, all the different smart contract, you can choose all different chain. You can do an EVM chain, or you can do a Cosmos chain, or you can do some permission chain like comply with government rule or something. That's all doable. So that's just our architecture. We believe like blockchain itself is just not scalable. It's a layer 1. Tango is a much better solution. So that's just a summary of my talk. So basically, we are still early as a whole population. Very few people still really use blockchain, no matter as a speculation asset. We see less than 1 or 2% of the whole population use exchange, and we're still early as even like less people use the blockchain in their daily life. And Fed Protocol, this is an important framework when we think about the blockchain stuff. We just need to know whether it's a protocol thing or it's an application thing. And protocol always dominate the value pool. But it doesn't mean the application is boring or it's like nothing, no innovation. All blockchain do have a trilemma, and this trilemma, the trade-off will lead to different kind of application built on top of it, and there are definitely trade-offs. And at Tango, we try to go beyond blockchain. It doesn't mean we don't have blockchain. We have our blockchain as layer 2, but we believe like the Tango is a better solution for layer 1, since it can achieve feeless. And definitely we are all project, but we are a smaller project compared to like Solana or Ethereum. Okay, that's just end of my talk. So IOTA's vision is we want to have digital autonomy for everyone. Digital autonomy is more than decentralization. Because decentralization itself is not enough to guarantee we can use the technology. So accessibility and decentralization are both important for autonomy. So we hope we can provide little trust and enable us to build a better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have about 5 to 10 minutes for everybody to ask questions. If not, later we'll just have some refreshments and you can speak to KO-WEI directly if you have any other questions, okay? So we're just going to pass the mic. You raise your hand very high, so it's going to get to you.
I just understand if you don't have a fee system,
I think the mic is not on.
Yeah, it's on.
how many nodes are you actually running on this?
Yeah, you asked a very good question. It's like,
And sorry, the second part of the question is to save time. You mentioned there are not many on-chain transactions. How do you actually verify that the logic of this tangle is going to work in real life when it scales up?
okay, so first question is like you asked if there is no incentive as fee or inflation, how people will run nodes, right? That's a very good question. So if I want to issue a transaction, I need to have a node in my phone or as a computer. So in some sense, everyone is going to have the node themselves. Another thing is like, then what's the value accrual for IOTA as a protocol? If transaction has no fee, then why do you have this token? Very important thing is like, even though transaction is feeless, if I want to write something on the Tango, like if I want to write an NFT, if I want to write a token, if I want to upload a selfie for today's talk as NFT, I write anything on a Tango, I need to pay a deposit. So it's a safe deposit. And if one day I think the NFT is worthless, I can burn the thing and get back my deposit. So at the end, what IOTA saying is like, what's the like constraint resource for a computer? It's the storage space and the bandwidth. So if you want to use IOTA storage space, you need to deal with the safe deposit. But after you define an asset or a credential or a token on IOTA Tango, moving this in is feeless. Okay. And the second thing is like about the bandwidth. So if I just hold in IOTA, I will have the guaranteed bandwidth for the transaction. If I hold 0.1% of IOTA, I will more or less get 0.1% with some like mathematical formula of bandwidth. So even though IOTA might imply if we have more hardware, our transaction per second will be higher, it's still finite. There is no infinite transaction in this physical world. But how can we distribute this TPS transaction per second among nodes? So it depends on how many IOTA hold by each node. Like if I hold 0.1% of IOTA token as like an automobile car company or something, I can always guarantee like my car can issue their data to IOTA Tango even in its peak time. So assume IOTA nowadays the TPS limit is 1,000 and I control 1%, means I can always guarantee 1% of TPS. So if someone else, they don't want to go IOTA, but they want to issue transaction, if they don't have enough IOTA, they have very little, but they want to issue tons of transaction, they can also pay me to buy the bandwidth. So IOTA token basically guarantee two things: the storage space on a Tango and the guaranteed bandwidth. So if no one uses IOTA, then this bandwidth doesn't have monetary value. That's true. But if people do use it, there's monetary value. So that's the first part. And the second part is about the tax. So definitely we can run a task environment with thousands or maybe I think just thousands of nodes and do the stress test, do all the spend. Definitely there's it's not yet fully implemented yet, but at least in the testing environment, we can go to the 1,000 TPS. So at least in the proof of concept now. So we know always we need to have a real, like the real environment to see whether it works or not. It will also be on Shimmer probably next year to really test our potential. So I do agree, we have very good thing in the, as a research paper, our result do publish in IEEE, and we have a simulation in the testnet with thousands of nodes, but we have not yet in the real life environment to test this thing, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to get as many questions as we can. Okay, why don't you just shout at Iris?
with regards to, it's similar to Solana in this case, without transaction, how do we prevent both and DDoS attack and other things?
Yeah, just like if you're
security issues.
So if you try to issue transaction out, you will come from some node, right? If my nodes hold 0.1% of iota, then if I try to spend, then at the end my TPS is just 0.1% of all the TPS we have. It's also how Solana solves this problem at the end now. Just like if one Solana node have like 1% of SOL stake there, they will guarantee 1% of bandwidth. So a lot of crypto network, they just they have the guaranteed bandwidth if you have token there. So even though there's no transaction fee, if I want to spend a network, first I may need to pay tons of storage deposit if I want to issue 1 million NFT with 1 million address. The second thing is I issue 1 million transaction, I need a lot of TPS. So if I just want to spend it in a very short period of time, then my transaction will not go through.
Okay, we have time for just one question.
Yeah, just now you mentioned that for IOTA, there's difficulty in implementing smart contracts, and if I understood correctly, is it because of some sequential issue, right?
Yes.
Why can't you implement this sequential algorithm or process by issuing like a timestamp for each transaction in your mesh?
The thing is like you can say we process the consensus on arrival. So you can definitely have the timestamp after everything consolidates or something. But at the moment, we do reach consensus to what at the end the global state is. But we may have no agreement to the global order, which one happened first or which one happened later. So yeah, so that's the just like we can reach consensus doesn't guarantee we have order. But if we have order about everything, then definitely we can guarantee a consensus. So that's the logic here. Yeah. So we more or less we just give out about the total order to get how we can. That's the reason how we can process all these transactions on arrival. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, KO-WEI. Thank you for your time. We do have some more time later if you would like to speak to the band after that outside. You can ask him some of the private questions. If you have some more basic questions about blockchain, because I understand sometimes it's more technical. For example, if you don't know what's a hash, you want to talk to someone about it, you can have a conversation with me or my team outside if they know, or anyone around. But thank you for coming. This is the first of many series. Today was built with layer 1 as an intention. So in the blockchain world, we have layer 2, layer 3s, but also because we're in the game of trying to commercialize something, the second series will be about how do you go from trying to build something, right, considering all the layers, layer 1's out there, and putting that into an ideation process. So in the second week of August, do look out for it. We're probably going to send it to EDM tomorrow. We're going to go through about, let me see what I have here, exploring some of the design thinking process in a product design, as well as coming up with a process to ideate and come up with ideas that you can potentially build on the blockchain. So look out for that. And then after that, in the third week of August, we're going to talk about layer 2. So layer 2 is going to trying to solve some of the problems that KO-WEI mentioned, right? The trilemma that you exist in the layer 1s. So look out for that. We are likely going to have maybe some other chains kind of talk, okay? Okay, thank you very much. We'll see everyone outside. Let's give a round of applause to KO-WEI once again.